Welcome, welcome, welcome once again on this beautiful July day. Welcome to Coping in Color, which is one of the top podcasts for Black mental health, brought to you by Black Mental Health Canada. This is a beautiful July day. I just remembered July is my birth month and tomorrow is my birthday. So there's that too. So I'm excited. I wish we'd done this tomorrow, but that's okay. We'll take today. And I'm excited to bring you our guest for today, Kyle Rose. Kyle is a seasoned entrepreneur and he has a very diverse portfolio. So, because I don't want to do it injustice, I will let Kyle tell us a bit about himself. Kyle, welcome, first of all. And can you share with us who you are and what your journey with mental health has been, bringing you up to this podcast?
Certainly, yeah. Thank you, Miriam. Appreciate the opportunity, and happy belated tomorrow. I hope you enjoy the day.
I will.
For as per your question, for me, um, firstly, my entrepreneurial background, I dabble in cybersecurity with my own firm, and then on the other hand, I own a cleaning and sanitation company. So doing that together has had me quite busy. So that's always a good thing. They say that idle hands gets people in trouble. So I like staying busy. I like staying active. So with the two and my family life and church life, like everything is just keeping me proactive. As far as my mental health, I believe for me it's a journey. Growing up, I didn't really pay too much attention to mental health, even though, subconsciously it's something that, of course, everyone feels and goes through. I grew up mainly with my mother, and my dad is out of the country. He's in and out. He serves in Jamaica in the Air Force and the policing academy. So I would usually just see him maybe twice, once a year. So now that I'm grown up and I'm older and I'm doing my own thing, I try to spend more time and go see family. Preferably, most of them are in the States or in Jamaica, so it's really limited up here in Canada as far as family for myself. So I didn't have family to talk to when it came to mental health as well. Everything was mostly just about making sure bills were paid, making sure there's a roof over our head and things are taken care of. So in that way, it kind of brought some level of stress because I had to grow up really fast um, because I had to be there to support not only myself but certain family members. And I would say, to be honest, yeah, that did take a toll on my mental health, is trying to figure out certain things at a young age. But you live and you learn, you grow, and the experiences, they help shape who you are.
Mhm. Wow, thanks for sharing that. And what you share is not uncommon in many Black families, right? Either family members gone or not in the picture, and then young people having to pick up the slack and actually, it's stressful because you're trying to be young, you're trying to learn how to live life, and
Mhm.
yet you have to be an adult real fast.
Yeah.
So what other unique challenges could you share that Black individuals face, especially Black youth, with
Mhm.
mental health, that maybe you
Yeah.
experienced or that you've seen with individuals around you?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. For me personally, speaking as, even when I was a child, as a black boy, um, one of the big mental health challenges that I see even today other young boys are facing is certain expectations in regards to where they will be career wise.
Mhm.
Growing up, it's always seems to be, and I find that this is like in major cities where the expectation for young black youth is like, you're either, of course they want you to do well in school, but like where they see you, every like black boy has like this expectation of wanting to play professional sports somewhere, either basketball, football, wherever the case may be, or being some sort of like artist, like a celebrity, a rapper, a singer, something like that. And growing up, that's kind of what was, I guess, the parameters when it came to success in my community and what I saw. But I never really saw anyone talking about like, oh, this kid wants to be a doctor. The parents would love that, but like when you ask the kid, that's not necessarily what they're going for, what they envision. Everything seems to be about, being a celebrity, or as I said, doing something where you're in the limelight, sports, acting, whatever. I've never heard of anyone talking about entrepreneurship when I was growing up until lately. So that in and of itself is tough. And I grew up playing basketball. I got a scholarship. I played collegiately. I played in high school. I played AAU. I traveled. I did all of that. And when I started growing and opportunities came and I saw the other side of things, I realized, this is a lot harder than people make it seem to be. As skilled as you are, all it takes is one injury and, your whole
Right.
career path is done. When it comes to being a musician or a singer or a rapper, it's just like everyone's trying to do that. So the competition is very fierce, and it's very hard to get your music and yourself and your brand out there, because at the end of the day, you're branding yourself. So there came a lot of stress with that, because you never really know what you want to do as a career. For me, I did pretty well in school, but I wasn't like, a mathematician. I wasn't someone that said, hey, I feel like I could be a doctor and, work on people that way. I just, not to say I wasn't smart enough, but it is just something where it took a lot of time and a lot of hard work. And with my situation, it's not something that I could have necessarily have put my all in, because I had other responsibilities that were on my back. So I just felt very limited in that way. And this is what I believe drove me into entrepreneurship, because I told myself I wanted to do well. I wanted to make some serious money without all this outside expectation. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's figuring that out as a young man. Yeah, that really impacted my mental health, I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really powerful, because I think I've talked about excuse me, I've talked about that disconnect between how we define success as adults, for our kids, and for me growing up too, how my parents or the people around me, the village around me, defined success. That going to school, do this, do this, do this, and not just going to school. You had to excel in school, right? And but for me, a lot of the expectations for success were not what I was living. They were not. I was feeling differently. I wanted different things from what were being expected of me. So I can definitely, see a lot of youth experiencing that, and it puts, that stress. It brings anxiety, and it can cause depression. And the sad part is, who do you talk to?
Yeah,
Right? Who do you talk to
yeah,
when you're experiencing that mental health challenges related to not meeting the societal expectations? Did
yeah.
you ever have mentors growing up, or if you did or did not, what do you think the role of mentorship can be for young Black individuals, as they navigate life, and to support them even through their mental health journeys?
Yeah, I growing up, I would say I never had any true mentors until I hit maybe grade 11, grade 12 last year, senior year of high school. But as far as mentors, like solid mentors, growing up as a child, not really outside of my parents. And then my parents, of course, they did the best that they could. But there's certain things that, as parents, as family, they can't really speak to in regards to my individual struggle. Like, for example, my mother, who's excellent. I have a great relationship with her. But there's certain things that I was growing up with. She's not a young man, so she can't relate, right? But I didn't really have any mentors until, like, yeah, I want to say high school, end of high school.
Mhm.
And it's then, 16, 17, 18, when you start to navigate, like, okay, what are you going to do after high school? Uh, if and where are you going to go to post secondary? Or are you just going to enter the job market? It's then when I started talking to certain people, and I had a really great mentor. His name is Earl Morgan, high school teacher of mine, who was there. We spoke a lot, spent a lot of time together. He actually helped me with my spiritual development. I'm at the church that I am today because of him. So I'm grateful for that. Um, But yeah, yeah, pretty late for me in the mentorship game, I would say.
And how do you think, having a mentor would be beneficial for young Black individuals?
I think it would be good. Like the earlier, the better, especially if
Mhm,
you have a role model that you could relate to. So maybe like young girls, like a woman with experience who kind of knows what they've been through. And same thing for young men, boys, I should say, a man who's kind of gone through their plight, their situation to kind of see where they went and how they navigated to help. I would say the earlier, the better. Uh, Maybe for me personally, what would have helped as soon as I started with financial obligations and responsibilities. So I want to say around 14, 15, that would have been great for me. Again, like it's just, there was a lot of just responsibility that was put on me at that early age. And in some ways I was ready, in a lot of ways I wasn't ready. And to have a
mhm,
solid, strong mentor at that point in my life, 14, 15, I would say would have been extremely helpful. And I think for most young Black youth today, it's primary to have that in their life at that time, when they're starting to get like, the summer comes, their first summer job, their first bit taste of like, you get a little check for whatever they're working, whether it's McDonald's or whatever, just to navigate that. And someone to kind of say, hey, be smart with your money, um, you know, be responsible, things of that nature. So I think it's key. And the earlier, the
mhm,
better. And I've even said to myself as I get older, what I want to do is seek out those individuals in my community or even at church, wherever I could find them. And if they're open, if they have questions, if they just want to have an honest conversation, to just be there for them and be that kind of, I guess, block if they don't have it, to help them navigate whatever situation they're in.
mhm. Yeah, cool. And I want to piggyback off of that last piece where you said, you would like to do that for young people. I'm curious. I know everything that we are sharing is a message, but I'm curious, what message would you have for grown-ups, like Black grown-ups, Black professionals, to step out? Because a young 14-year-old may not be able to seek out the person even if they wanted to. They may not yet have the confidence to do that.
Mhm.
So how do you see grown-ups, or Black professionals who are already in the working world, who've kind of made it even in the entrepreneurship world, in the mental health fields and so on? How would you, or what message would you have for them to reach out to those young people? Because many times we sit back and we are making the money, we are also chasing the almighty dollar,
Mhm.
but we see young people around us, struggling,
Mhm.
and they're not going to come to us. It has to be us to kind of reach out.
Yeah, no, that's true. I would say, guess then my message to them would be, I guess, just be attentive. Beware of your surroundings. I'm sure. I mean, whether it's a neighbor or your own, maybe nieces or nephews, someone in your community, a young boy or girl who's in your church. Um, there's always youth around. So
Mhm,
there's always someone to mentor. There's always someone to lend advice. Maybe like friends, like if you have a friend who has children and you see that, maybe they could grasp some more knowledge from you or some more wisdom, reach out to them. If you notice that it's a summertime, and like for example, I have a friend of mine who has a child at my church. She just turned 15. I'm in the process of helping her find summer work. So
mhm,
things of that nature. Especially at that age, you're kind of in that setting where it's like you don't really have enough experience to get what you want, but you're also not young enough where like you're just a baby. Like you have responsibility, but you're kind of in that middle ground. So I would say it's on us as adults just to pay attention to the needs of our community and the young ones around us, and just ask questions. And if they're interested and if they want help, then that's great. If they don't, then you can't force anything. Just leave them with their timing, and they'll, now that they know that you're interested, they'll reach out to you when they're ready and they're comfortable. I found that that works a lot.
mhm. Yeah, Cool. Yeah, and I find that with young people, sometimes it's the approach, right?
Yeah.
They need to see you interested in them and their stuff
Hmm.
before they can buy into what you have for them. And a
Exactly.
lot of times, especially in our community, we come in, we come in with the advice, we come in to tell, we just, you know,
Hmm.
we kind of overwhelm them with all the experiences and the judgment and all of that.
Yeah.
And yet, there's very little interest in who they are
Hmm.
and, what has supported them thus far. So
Yeah.
I think also coming from a place of who are you and what are
Hmm.
your interests, and then go from there. It's easier for them to listen to us.
Yeah, it's like almost being like a friend,
Absolutely.
first. Yeah, getting to know them, and then all that stuff comes after.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, cool. So for yourself, and I see, you have the cybersecurity, you have the cleaning and sanitation, and of course that keeps you busy. And I can already see, when I read your bio, you've done a lot as a, young person. You've already done a lot, which
Hmm.
is good. But how do you maintain your own mental health? How do you ensure that you're,
Hmm.
you know,
Um,
taken care of?
that's a great question. Every day I'm working on that because I'm keenly aware that as much it is as much as it's good to be busy and make money and just take care of yourself and all that stuff. I do realize that there is a thing of overburn or overkill, I believe it's called.
Mhm.
And I always aware I don't want to do that. You don't want to be working so hard and then what are we working for, right? It's like we're here today, gone tomorrow type thing, and you always want to make sure that you're in the moment. So one of the ways that I've been really helping with my mental health, I don't believe in this whole work now, sleep later type thing. I make sure to get my rest in every day, a
Mhm.
solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I make sure that that is a must, and I don't, even if I'm late sending an email, whatever the case may be, I make sure to get my sleep. And even if I have to wake up later, then that's what I'll have to do because I'm no use to anyone if I don't get enough sleep or if I'm cranky or I'm not, adjusting well. And then the second thing, and probably the most important, I remember I mentioned earlier my faith and my church experience. I'm a Sabbath keeper, so every Saturday I'm either in church or I'm, taking time to reflect on God and His goodness and what He's done for me throughout the day. Making sure that that period I'm just, not only fellowshipping with, other Christians and other friends of mine, believers, but just, going for a walk. It's summertime now. I really want to take advantage of being outside, enjoying the weather. So yeah, just disciplining myself to take that 24-hour period on a Saturday just to relax. No business. I don't take any phone calls. I let everyone know that this is just a time to relax and this is what I'm doing. And it's been very helpful for my mental health because I'm not burning. Imagine working 7 days a week and no rest. It's just I don't know how people do it, and they don't usually last long. So I encourage everyone to really take that day off and just rest. It's been working for me, and um, I'm grateful that I have that day to just decompress and do me and pray and just get back to basics.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's nice to have that day of rest.
Hmm.
Rest is something that is much needed in the Black community. And what
Yeah.
does it even look like, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Redefining rest or defining rest for oneself.
Hmm.
And one of the things that is tough, and which is why we have podcasts such as this, one of the things that is tough in the Black community is talking about mental health, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So how how do you think culture stigma around mental health tends to affect the Black community?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, honestly, you had said the word there, stigma, and you're absolutely right. I don't know, something in our community. It's like they think that anytime you're talking about mental health, it's almost like you have like a problem. Um, but I don't look at it like that. I mean, mental health is just as important as physical health.
Mhm.
And I've been learning that, like, I recently, been reading up on some things, and I've been vegetarian now for 8 years. I changed my
Oh,
diet back in the day, and I find that physically it's working for me, but even mentally, like, it's a clearer state of mind, and I think it's important. My family is Jamaican, and I know, like, there's running jokes, not necessarily in my family, but I hear it in Jamaica, where it's just like, yeah, you have a they talk about mental health. They think that you're like almost crazy,
mm-hmm,
but I know that that's just kind of like a running joke. It's not true, and I don't even think most people think it's true. I think it's just, I don't know where it came from, but I know everyone understands at some level that mental health is important, because if it's not working for you up here, everything else doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It starts with your brain,
mm-hmm,
starts with your thinking, and that, manifests itself into your physical life and everything else, spiritually, emotionally. So it's a shame that it's not taken as serious as it should be, and that more people are not prioritizing their mental health. Um, Maybe some people feel like it's not a priority because they're just used to just a certain way of life, which I understand. As I said, for me, it's just like, you just growing up, you had to work, make sure bills are paid, make sure things are taken care of. So people don't even have the time to prioritize their mental health, because they feel like if they do, something else is lacking. Um, and I don't know what we could do as a community to fix that. I think it's going to take a lot of individual work, just to kind of say, hey,
mm-hmm,
I need to prioritize this for myself, and whatever stigma that is there, to just ignore it. Um, for me personally, I've never been to a therapist, but I'm not opposed to the idea. It's just, it just never happened for me, but I would certainly go. Um, I speak to my partner, like, couples therapy is something I'd be open to. All of these things I think are important, and need to be prioritized. So for sure, yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how um, when we talk about physical health, if someone just says the term physical health, there's usually a positive um, connotation to it. But when
Mhm.
you say mental health, immediately it's skewed negative, and yet
Yeah.
both are just neutral,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
They're both
Both are
important.
just neutral.
Yeah. Hmm.
Then when you can talk about good physical health, or bad or not good physical health, and then mental health can have the good and the bad, but mental health, just the term itself,
Hmm.
um, tends to have that stigma that comes with it. And yes, it calls for rethinking how we view the concept of mental health. But what do you think are the barriers? What do you think are the reasons why people may not easily seek mental health or want to talk about it? Why,
I
why
think
do you, aside from the stigma, why do you think people, especially in the Black community, why do we struggle with that?
I think a lot of that, maybe one part, at least what I see with me, is really the timing. Like, so for example, I mentioned, like, someone might be aware that mental health is important, but they don't take the time to address their mental health concern. They don't take the time to seek out or ask the proper questions, or professionals if they need to seek. And I really truly believe that it's a timing thing. I think in the Black community, we face, like, economically, we know that, like, sometimes we've been held back, uh, possibly due to racism, other factors, maybe just, like, our economical stance in the world, or where we are. And our number one concern is, like, how to get out of the situation that we're in. So because that's, like, the number one concern, and that's the main stressor, there's not really time to consider mental health. So I really just think that in the community, for us, it's very low on the totem pole, like, in our pecking order. It's not priority, and I think many of us would love it to be, but it's just, there are other places in our life that are not settled yet, and we feel that maybe it's just not as important as where I need to be. Like, if I'm stressing about how, the mortgage or the rent is going to be paid, then that's only adding to my mental health issues. It's not really something that I could address if I don't have the money to cover what I need to cover. And I think that's one of the things that we have a problem with in our community, as well as other added stresses that we face. um, yeah, I think that's what it is. I think really and truly, if other areas in our lives would be better approached or handled, I think maybe our mental health would be better as a community. But it's a struggle
Mhm.
nonetheless, you know?
Mhm. So, what I'm hearing from you is we probably need more education around it, right?
Yeah,
More education around it, because if I'm stressing about my bills and I'm stressing about no rent and so on, and so I'm going to put therapy aside until I can raise the money, and we don't realize that sometimes taking care of our mental health actually gives us a bit of stability and a settledness to think clearer, right? And then maybe instead of stressing about the bills, we're actually getting ideas, because when you have a clear mind, it's easy to have those ideas. So
yeah,
I think what I hear you saying is we need more education around, how do we uh, how do we what exactly is the benefit of taking care of our mental health, and to
mhm,
see how it connects to the financial or economic and every other part, and our physical health, of course.
yeah.
So
And also, in addition to the educational piece, like not only educating people but being there for them in their time of need. I
mhm,
remember a couple years ago there was a young lady, single mom in the community where I used to live, and unfortunately she committed suicide, and they found notes and stuff like that. She had two children, and I guess she just didn't have any help, right?
mhm,
And two children, toddlers, I believe, at that age, they're stress in of itself. As much as we love our kids, like kids come with a lot of good stress, but stress nonetheless, right? And if you don't have anyone helping, checking in on you, I believe she got overwhelmed or overburdened, and
mhm,
then this led to her taking her life. So just things like that, checking in on her, saying, "Hey, do you need a day off? Like I could babysit for the day if you have
mhm,
time." Like little things like that, just to take the pressure off of her. And many of us in our community, that would have been something that would have been, in addition to the education, a very valuable and tangible piece that she could have used in that time. So just things like that, I try to be
mhm.
aware of and try to step in where I can.
Thank you so much. We are going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll pick up right from where you brought up a key point, and so we'll start there when we get back. See you in a minute. Welcome back. Welcome back. And I am here today, July 9th, with our guest, Kyle Rose, and I'm Dr. Miriam Sekandi. And when we left off, we were talking about Kyle raised a very important point, which is checking in on each other. One of the things that I have found, Kyle, is people don't know what to say. Even if they checked on you and they found that you're in crisis, they don't know what to say.
Mhm.
And I find that tends to keep people away, and the stigma tends to increase because people don't know what to do. in those situations. They're like, okay, so if I go check on somebody and the person says they're stressed or they're depressed or whatever I see, or sometimes they don't say, but you see, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
You're able to tell that this person's not doing well. So, in those situations where, you know, you've checked in on somebody, because I know not everyone will check in, but you recognize that something is not right and you don't know what to do.
Hmm.
You have to make a move. What would that move look like? Because a lot of people don't want to take time away from what they are doing and start, dealing with someone else's issues. So they just keep it moving.
Yeah.
So how do you think individuals need to respond when they notice that somebody is in crisis or has a mental health challenge?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And to be fair, I understand the last part of what you're saying, people taking on other people's stress. But the reality is like if it's very situational. It depends on what it is the person's going through. There are some things that you will be able to help with, and then there are other things where you might need to perhaps call a professional on that person's behalf because it's just not, maybe you're not qualified, you're not trained to deal with the situation. But I think a lot of this has to be, I guess, putting self out of the picture. Like if you're going to help someone, you can't be selfish, right? So we have to
Mhm.
make time if we care about the individual, if we want to see them do well, and if they have a mental health issue, if you see that there's a problem and it's something that you could handle, then certainly you got to make time. Now that doesn't mean you throw away your whole schedule or your whole life. I'm sure we're all busy, but if it's someone you care about and you say you care about, even just a listening ear is important. Let them, vent to you. Let them talk to you, and you will be surprised how well that does. As you know, and as I mentioned, I work in cybersecurity, and one of my clients, I didn't know her for too long, but she had lost $8,000 for a cryptocurrency scam, right? And after we helped her, we mentored her, did a little educational piece, and put her through to the right authorities. I checked in with her afterward. I mean, it's $8,000. I knew her situation, and for her, that's a big hit. And what I did was I just checked into her like afterwards, just to be like, hey, how's it going? Have you like recuperated? Like, I know that you lost that money, but what are you doing now to kind of help better your situation? I tried to send her some resources that, she could try to maybe, part-time jobs just to help, build back that income because it was out of her savings. So things like that. And you don't have to be like on them like a hawk, but just to show that you care and that you're trying to do something to help work out the situation. And again, as it says, it goes back to they have to be willing. Like if they don't share any information with you, but you could see, and you approach them and you try your best, and they're just not wanting any help, then you leave them. You've done your best. You pat yourself on the back, and you just keep them in your mind, and then maybe they'll reach out to you when the time is right. But a lot of this has to be kind of just removing self out of the picture, um, putting yourself almost in their shoes to kind of see if you could relate to what they're going through, and when and if they're open, just being there to kind of help them in their time of need. I think that's the best approach.
Mhm. Yeah, pretty key. I am also a mental health first aid trainer, so and it's something that I would really, really encourage members of our community to take the training, because it's very, very important for anyone. You don't have to be a therapist to help somebody who's struggling, because it's very important to be able to recognize those signs, right? And then reach out to them. And what we may not realize is sometimes, because we are caring people, being, we tend to come from a caring background. Actually, we
Mhm.
are natural caregivers, so we can't just caregive in places where we are making money. We
Mhm.
also need to caregive in our daily lives. So very important to reach out to individuals and share. So I am wondering, and I don't know, depending on the world that you've been in, What changes would you like to see in the mental health care field, um,
Mm.
if any? What changes would you like to see to ensure that Black individuals or people from the Black community are receiving the supports they need? Because there have been so many reports of individuals being misunderstood, misdiagnosed,
Mm.
uh, look, passed over and
Mm.
dismissed because of the way they present. And
Mm.
we tend to hide very well. Sometimes we hide our what's going on really well, we mask
Mm.
it up, and sometimes we are overly expressive,
Mm.
and all of these can cause kind of
Mm.
a misunderstanding on the other side. So what changes do you think would you like to see in the mental health care field?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. For me personally, I would love to see like more, I guess, either workshops or webinars specifically tailored to what we could do for preventative measures in
Hmm.
regards to some of the things that cause the mental health in our community. So, for example, stress comes from all angles, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's stress that's in our hands that we put on ourselves sometimes, and then there's other times where it's out of our control and just life just happens, and I get that. But
Hmm.
there's certain things I would love to see, like for example in our community, um, young parents, like early parents, maybe dealing with mental health workshops and webinars in that respect as to what we could do to reduce stress in our community. So, for
Hmm.
example, I know that we have a lot of children who are born to parents who are not necessarily together, or not married, whatever the case may be. I think it would be good to just have like, and I understand things happen, and there's always, we work with people. There's no judgment, but just kind of drilling it in the heads of young folk, like how important it is to like be ready when you start your family, or how important it is to um, you don't have to be rich but financially stable. Just make sure that things are in place. um, you don't want to repeat the same patterns that you may have in your own life, because you see how detrimental it was for you, so you don't want to bring that on to the next generation. Things of that nature. Avoiding making mistakes that cause unnecessary stress or headaches, as I'm saying. um, Understanding that children are supposed to be like a joy, or something that you plan for and that you build your family. They're not there to be like a retirement package for you. So the reasons why you have your kids are important, so things like that. And I feel like when that happens, we have that open and honest discussion, kind of showing the positive and negative. People can make an honest decision, or at least they'll think twice before they do certain things, um, because they realize that it's going to impact their mental health drastically, and they may not be ready for that. So
Hmm.
yeah, workshops, webinars, having people come into the communities of where we see these issues, and just kind of drilling that in the importance of our decisions and why they impact our daily lives.
Wow, that you dropped some gems right there, right? The planning for the life cycle, and that's probably something that many people don't think about. People have kids, something you've mentioned, which is really key. People have kids so the kids can take care of them when they're older,
Hmm.
right? They are not your retirement package. I love that one. I'm borrowing that one, just so you know. Kids are not your retirement package, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so many people go through those, and a lot of our stressors are uh, because of those, because of the life cycles that we go through. When the kids leave, then what do you do? And then it's you have to plan for your end of life. What does that look like? People don't even want to have those conversations yet,
Hmm.
because they stress them, they cause anxiety, and they avoid those situations. But in the back of the mind, those things are there, continuing to cause stress. And
Yeah.
sometimes that, those subconscious things that tend to stick there tend to be even more damaging to us, because We don't address them for so many years, and then at some point we don't even know what's causing the stress, but we are stressed.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like it's not a conversation that should be avoided, and I see people pushing this down the line. And as you said, you take it to a point where you get, it's like almost like they want to have the conversation in the fire, like when somebody is sick, or this person got a cancer diagnosis, or this person is, whatever. And now we want to start making plans where it's just like we should have had this conversation from before. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of people, young people, um, or even maybe middle age, whatever the case may be, just the cost of funeral expenses here in Canada alone. You know what I mean? And when there's no plan and everything is put on the children, or young adults or whatever the case may be, it that adds to your mental health, right? Like
Mhm.
when you can't afford it, and you don't always want to be taking things from the government because there's, there's hidden clauses and stuff like that, and you don't know if it's going to be a proper situation that they, or if they give you enough money. So all of these things, and for me personally, I've made it a goal of mine that if I have children one day, they'll never have to worry about taking care of me. If they want to buy me something, sure, but I'm not going to go to them and say I need this for my future, or I want this, you do this. Like that's not why I had them. I believe children are our heritage from God, and they're there to be enjoyed. And there's certain things you don't just dump on them, and it's all for a lack of preparation. And then there's a quote I remember. It's usually it goes like, we don't plan to fail, but we fail to plan.
Mhm.
And that really just brings that up in this conversation. And because of our lack of planning, it impacts our mental health, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that needs to be addressed.
Mhm. That's, that very, very important, especially for parents to
Mhm.
hear, the grown-ups to hear. I love hearing from young people because we have so much to learn, because their perspective, looking up, it's almost they call it the worm's eye view versus the bird's eye view. Sometimes what the worm sees and what the bird sees are different things, and it's important to get those perspectives, and also to respect when those perspectives come through, because a lot of times young people struggle because they are not heard,
Yeah.
they're ignored.
Hmm.
And as we wait to see if there are any questions, I was having a conversation with a lady a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the level of um, autism in the Black community, and how so many parents, and I know you're not I don't know, but you're not an autism expert, but um, they we're talking about autism in the Black community amongst the kids, and how so many Black parents are refusing to admit that their children, or to have their kids tested, because they don't want not just the stigma, but there is that spiritual belief, oh, don't speak that over my child. And so they don't have the kids tested. And then the kids go to schools and cause havoc,
Hmm.
because they are not supported. They are not given the mental health supports that they need,
Hmm.
right? They don't get the supports. So, they things happen at school, and then kids are expelled. This particular kid was expelled, and that's why this topic came up. What are your thoughts about parents and not paying attention, or refusing to, especially in our community? How do we honor our children? And if there is anything, like, get those kids tested, get them to get help, instead of burying our heads in the sand and just pulling out the Bible, throwing it to our kids and saying, read the Bible, don't speak, the devil over my child. My child is okay.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts about that?
Honestly, that's a shame. It's a true shame that if you're a parent and you have a child that's dealing with autism, and you want to ignore it because of whatever stigma you feel is there. At the end of the day, it's your child that's suffering, right? So I don't see why and how that makes sense. If you see there's a problem, address it. And another thing that I have issue with is when people, and you're right, you said it, Miriam, like they want to throw the Bible and say all of this stuff. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people throw the Bible and they say all of that stuff out of context, because there's nowhere in the Bible where it's saying you should not address your mental health. Prayer is a communication between us and God, but that doesn't remove our responsibility and our right to take care of our mental health. I mean, this, you could say the same thing about physical. Like, just because we have a relationship with God, that doesn't mean you could do whatever you want with your body. You will get sick. So it's the same thing with your mental health. You could pray, you could trust God, all of that is cool, but also God gave us a brain to use it for a reason. So if you see that there's an issue, you need to address it. And God puts people in place. We have doctors, we have therapists, we have people, professionals in place to help you with these things. So to say don't talk that over my child, it doesn't make any sense. It's foolish, and you're doing your child a disservice. And that kind of boils my blood, because that's using scripture out of context, and a lot of people do that, and we need to knock it off with that, to be honest. And utilize the resources that we have in place and not be foolish, because again, it's the children that suffer the most when it comes to that. um, and that's a shame. It really is.
Yeah, it's really hurtful, and I think it's a conversation again in our community. We need that education, like you mentioned, the workshops. We need to continue these conversations, even what we're having on this podcast, within the community, to kind of break down the not just the stigma, but the barriers that we are putting up ourselves to refuse the conversation of mental health from entering our community. It's
Mhm,
almost like sometimes, I'm in rooms and I feel as if it's a deliberate effort to keep
mhm.
the conversation out.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet we should be breaking down the doors and letting the conversation in, because we've been dealing with this stuff for generations.
Hmm.
My grandfather, my father's dad passed away when my dad was really young,
Hmm.
and they say it's a mental health issue. I don't know what it is. Nobody followed up to see what it is. I don't know whether it runs in the family.
Hmm.
you know I
Exactly.
am curious about how it came about. I know during those days there was syphilis going on, and men
Hmm.
used not to treat it because
Hmm.
it made you feel more of a man. And then apparently one of the effects is it gets to your brain. I don't know whether that's what it was, or
Yeah.
maybe it was something else. So all those unanswered questions, if we don't take the time to get kids tested, or even us as adults,
Hmm.
we've gone through our childhood not knowing if there's anything there, and if we suspect something, get ourselves tested.
Yeah.
So
And I would just add too, I believe that, Miriam, and that's a good point, like, for ourselves, I believe all of this starts in the home when you're young, because sometimes we expect other people to, other professionals or whoever outside the home to care about our mental health. But I'm a firm believer in, for example, in the nuclear family. I believe our men and women, particularly in our Black community, we need to stay together, because we're the stronghold of our children and our own mental health. And I believe a strong family, that kind of works together, stays together, does what they're supposed to do. A lot of these mental health challenges maybe could be not necessarily totally avoided, but they could be like nipped in the bud a bit, and help. And then once we control it within our homes, I feel like when we send our kids out to school, in the workforce, things like that, a lot of these things would be better and be addressed. And I think that a strong family is what a big component of good mental health, because there's nothing like having a family you could go back to, and have support there. And it all starts in the home. So I think that's very important. And I'm a big advocate for that. Like, we need to stay together, our Black men and Black women, and just build and grow, and do what we need to do. And then we'll see the effects in other parts of our life start to shape in the right direction.
mhm. Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called "It Takes a Village to Wreck a Child,"
Mm.
and I go into how, as families, we either can make or break the child,
Yeah.
right? And what you're saying is true. Within the family, who are we allowing in? What conversations are we allowing or not allowing? What things are we doing or not doing that impact children, right? And their mental health. Very, very key and very important. I'm just checking in with tech. Do we have any questions anywhere? Either Facebook, LinkedIn.
I just want to say I
No
appreciate this.
questions.
Mm, it's a
Okay, no
good
questions for
conversation.
now. Yeah, and I'm just going to open it up to you. Is there anything else you would like to share that you feel we haven't covered, or something that you need to emphasize or reiterate for our audience, so that the big wise word,
Mm.
takeaway word for them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just from the beginning point, one thing that I want to stress too is for our young boys and girls, societal expectations. I mentioned whether it's like being an athlete or being an artist or whatever, understand that you have more options.
Mhm.
You could be an entrepreneur, you could go to school and do whatever you need to do, but have other aspirations um, to take care of yourself other than the goals and dreams that society puts on you. Now, if you want to be an athlete, you want to be a singer, I'm not saying don't go for that. But what I'm saying is, always have your options open and realize that you're not a failure just because you never made it to whatever sports team or because you never got your big break in music. There's so many things to do, and there's so many leaders we need in all different types of industries to look up to. And I would love to see more young people having a plan to start their own business, have their own firm, do something for themselves, to not only see if you could create generational wealth, but also just provide for yourself and not feeling like you're not doing anything. Everyone wants to feel productive and useful, and don't feel like you failed if you haven't done the first goal you set out to. Do something for yourself, and not because society says that this is what we're good at. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's one thing I would say, because I faced that when I was young, and that really does impact your mental health.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. So you've mentioned, kind of being interested in mentoring, and I don't know if um, you're open and ready to take on any young people who might be interested in mentorship.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I have my book. Oh my goodness, my book's on Amazon. It takes a village to wreck a child. It's on Amazon. Yeah. Uh, so where can these people find you? Where could you be found? And yeah, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, certainly. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You could find me, for example, at my cybersecurity company, cyberai.pro, is our website, and you'll see all of our links there. And then also for the sanitation type of thing, it's jaguarcleaningservices.com. Again, all of our links are on there for our social media. You can connect with me, even if it's not a business thing, just to talk. I love these type of conversations. I think they're important and they're meaningful. And yeah, anyone who's open, as I said, I'm helping a young girl right now with finding summer work. We just had interns that we just finished with in late June for working with us through Seneca College. So we're always open to either interns or young people looking for mentorship. I'm a part of a group of men who kind of look to kind of help others. So anything that they need, I'm open, finding work, other opportunities to make money, networking, coming to church, whatever you need from me, I'm open. And I just want to see our community grow. So, yeah, that's where you could find me.
Thank thank you very much. There is a question. We have a couple minutes, but there is a question. How do we recognize the signs? I'll let you take it first, and then I can build on what you share.
I
How
mean,
do
like,
how do we recognize the signs? Probably of declining mental health.
mhm. I would say for me, one thing I've noticed is like avoidance. Like they don't really talk to you as much. They're very quiet, especially if they used to be bubbly. And also, yeah, like they're not as engaged. Like that's so you see like they start to pull themselves back from you. You don't really hear from them. as much, I would say that's one of the key signs I've noticed.
Mhm. Yeah, isolation, right?
Yeah.
Self-isolation. That's a key one. If you notice someone used to do certain things and then they kind of pull back and they are no longer interested in the things they were doing, and they tend to isolate themselves, that's a key sign. And sometimes they lash out,
Hmm.
unusually lashing out. And it's like, what's wrong with you, Miriam? How come you're, lashing out? And I always tell parents, I teach parenting, I always tell parents that when kids behave certain ways and you notice it's off, don't rush to punish.
Hmm.
Don't rush to punish, because sometimes you miss the signs because you're reading the signs as misbehavior.
Yeah.
Instead, if your child is doing something that's off, get closer. Get closer and figure out what's going on. This is so unlike you. Is there anything, is there, I notice ABCD. And if
Hmm.
they don't want to talk about it, you can tell them it's okay, but I am here, so that they know that if they work up the courage to talk about it, or they are ready to put it into words, they can actually come to you and share. But
Hmm.
yes, a lot of the times, behavior wise, will be off. And I'm not going into a full mental health first aid lesson here, but behavior will be off. And instead of just going, oh well, I don't know what's wrong with that chick these days, she's doing ABCD, blah 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 blah. If you see behavior that's off, reach out.
Hmm.
That's the easiest way to put it.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh my goodness, a link to my book. If you go on Amazon and type in "It Takes a Village to Wreck a Child,"
I love
you
that title,
will,
Miriam.
or
That's
my name.
a great title. I know that captures anyone's attention.
Yeah, just type that into Amazon and it will come up. Yeah, so great, great, great points. And thank you so much, Kyle, for sharing with us your wisdom. Like I said, I love intergenerational conversations. I love to hear from young people, because we grown up sometimes are set in our ways and we know it one way and not wanting to change. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing yourself with us, sharing your story, sharing your experiences, really rich. And we wish you all the best, and we'll stay connected. And I'll hand it over to Tech.
Thank you. Thank you, Miriam.